Excuse me? When was someone going to tell me that Mary and Joseph stayed in Bethlehem 40 days? Oh, nice round number. Before returning to Jerusalem after the birth of Christ. And when they had performed all things according to the law of the Lord, they returned into Galilee, into their own city of Nazareth. The law of the Lord being this one: if a woman has conceived seed and bore a man child, she shall be unclean 7 days. On the 8th day, the baby will be circumcised, and she will continue to be unclean for 33 days. That's 40 days. But it's only later that the wise men show up. Definitely not at Jesus' birth, but before he was 2. So we're going to crunch some numbers. And remember, they left. But wait, they were in Bethlehem when the wise men showed up. How can that be? Because of this right here. His parents went to Jerusalem every year at the Feast of Passover, meaning that's where they were, staying with family in Bethlehem, likely in the same inn/guest house of the abode where they stayed during the time of baby Jesus. But since there was no room in that guest house, they would have stayed in the manger, that more like the stables, like underneath, still part of the inn or the building. But anyways, long story short, I think that's where they would have stayed when they returned, staying with family. And then, of course, going over to Jerusalem to celebrate Passover. So there are 2 main schools of thought for when Jesus was born. Here we go. We've got a Hanukkah conception gives you a Feast of Tabernacles birth. Now, this is my thinking right here, because this is perfection. But then we look over here and it's also perfection. So, I mean, hey, it could go either way. So, if he was born at the Feast of Tabernacles, Feast of Trumpets, then he was conceived in Hanukkah. That means that he was circumcised on the Day of Atonement, and they returned to Galilee on Sukkot, which is interesting because that's what they celebrate for their ancestors being exposed to the elements, traveling from Egypt to Israel. So interestingly, that's, I think, a 7-day long thing. That would have been when Mary and Joseph were exposing themselves to the elements, traveling from Jerusalem or from Bethlehem back to Galilee. Just saying. Now, if you're on this school of thought with a Passover birth, that means his conception was at 3 weeks. It's called the 3. That's Tish B'Av, and that there is what they celebrate for the destruction of the temple, the first and second temple being destroyed around the same time. So that I may be feeling that one. That's a definite possibility. And that would have them returning to Galilee at Shavuot, which is 40 days. Hello. What is Shavuot now? It's the ascension of Christ. So maybe they could have left Bethlehem and gone to Galilee on the pre-anniversary of when Jesus returned, when he ascended to heaven. Oh, I'm just saying, which school are you in? Are you voting September birth, or are you voting over here in an Easter birth, Passover? You know what I mean?